My name is Tatum Lau. I'm a senior planner with ACOM. We're very proud to sponsor the equity session today, and I'm the social value and equity lead at ACOM, so I help clients as well as our teams across the company embed equity and think about technical resources and approaches to both equitable outcomes as well as processes. Tell us what equity, or maybe you don't use that term, maybe your term is serving all of your constituents. Whatever terminology you're using, please give the audience a little bit of an overview of what that means to your organization, whether it's a definition or how it's playing out.
Equity is not the sort of singular, oh, I know what it is. I've got a neat little box to put it in and I can run forth and do good things. That's not what equity is about. And oh, by the way, it's not a destination. It's a journey. You're never going to solve equity as long as you have human beings and means of travel as your focus. So where we're at within the task force is that we have a definition. It is not a definition that AASHTO has adopted and said, everybody got to have this one. It's rather to communicate the idea that equity is about making sure that everyone has access to outcomes that are positive. Whatever those outcomes need to be, if it's clean air, if it's clean water, if it's the ability to earn a living and be able to get to those places, if it means getting an advanced education, if it means being able to get to medical facilities, that's what it's about. And AASHTO recognized that because back in November of 2020, the AASHTO Board of Directors established the Equity Task Force and said this is an issue that matters to all of us as state departments of transportation, and we're going to move forward with that.
I would think that there are people in the organization that think significant resources are provided to support equity because my position exists and I have a team of 4 people that are focused on equity and then 20 people that are focused on civil rights. That's definitely resources. That's a line item in the budget, right? And other people are thinking, we hear equity all the time. But what they are hearing is Erica talking about equity all the time. So I think when we think about this question, we need to ask ourselves, are our organizations truly bought in to the concept of equity? It's one thing to talk about it, but are we living it out in every decision we make in our organizations, right?
You know, I really think equity is a leadership challenge. It's a leadership challenge. You know, this title of this meeting, of this breakout today is actually called, look at it, it says, Stop, Look, and Listen. Who's stopping, who's looking, and who's listening? Is it the entry level or is it the top? One of the things that we found out in MoDOT is that if we wanted change to happen community-wise and really being embracive of people of different perspectives and colors and influences from the community, it had to start at the top. The thing that's missing in this title of this session is not only stop, look, and listen, but the thing that's missing is response. Because what are we doing with what we heard? What are we doing with what we saw? And what are we doing when we stop? Do we have the right response for what it is we're trying to take on and provide the necessary change for our communities? You know, the other thing that we learned at MoDOT is, you know, we were preparing to build a $500 million project down the heart of St. Louis. And previous to that work that we were doing in 1999, the community came and shut the project down because there was a protest. In 2006, we're preparing to do this again, do another project in a different part of the community. What we thought we rectified, they said you did not have the right response because you did not go far enough. You did not go far enough. I think a lot of times from leadership perspective, the challenge is we want things to be peaceful when you create change. Change never comes without challenge.
So as Dr. Woods and Gloria have said, it's a marathon. Well, COMTO, equity and ensuring that all underrepresented and underutilized groups are served has been at the core of what we've done for the over 50 years that the organization has been in existence. So we work to ensure that opportunities and maximize participation in the transportation industry for those groups, which include minorities, women, people with disabilities, veterans, and our MWDBE businesses. So in terms of practice, for COMTO, this means working with our organizational members, which include state DOTs, transportation agencies, and private sector firms, in helping them to actualize their goals for serving all users of the systems. So it also means for us to ensure that internally their employees are feeling valued and have upward mobility and professional development, and externally that they're working proactively with the communities that they're serving, community partners, small businesses, and educational institutions. So that's kind of what COMTO and equity means.
Given the audience that we have in this room, we've got a lot of DOT staff and leaders. Assuming we're planning for outcomes in the next 5, 10, 15, 25 years, our planning horizons, what does the organization, what does the DOT need to look like and do differently in order to get to those outcomes? And we can talk more about how to get there, but what is our vision for what the DOT or any transportation agency needs to look like?
I think, and I'm glad that was the question that you went to next, Tatum, because what I'm about to say is really piggybacking on what Lester was talking about. One of the things that I think it was just a kind of fortunate bit of timing when I first joined the Michigan DOT is that we were about to look at our strategic plan and update it. And with a chief culture, equity, and inclusion officer in the room, the process of that updating looked different. And I would argue probably what we ended up with relative to how we changed our mission, vision, and values was a little bit different than we might have had otherwise without equity as a part of the conversation in the forefront. So, probably the clearest example for us that highlights what Gloria was talking about was, our former mission in some ways harkened back to a speech that President Eisenhower made in Cadillac Square, which is in the city of Detroit, where he referenced pristine rivers of concrete. And so it was about the tech. It was about, can we build a highway system that is going to support the economic development of the state of Michigan? And in this case, state of Michigan, sure, population, whatever. But it was not that kind of focus on getting people where they want and need to go, as opposed to where we want and need them to go. And so the way our mission evolved is it went from that focus to serving and connecting people, communities, and the economy through transportation. Very different than us just saying, hey, we can go out here and do incredible technical things for people. It's about really how do we engage with people in the communities? How do we get a bead on where people want to go? What do they want to have in their neighborhoods? What else do they need modally as support? And I think we're working on that. And I certainly do not want to sit here and pretend that Michigan has it in the bag. Because we absolutely do not. But even when we look at that as a part of the conversation within our DOT, and now that we've decided on that, we can make that public facing. We also have to go back and do some of the other work that's implied in what Lester was talking about. And internally, we got some readiness building that we have to do. We have to assess, are we ready to do this? Not just in terms of the numbers, but do people have the knowledge set to go out here and deal with the diverse communities in Michigan? And if they don't, do we have the capacity to ensure that they do? What would that look like? And so, we're again balancing these external pieces with what we got to do, the hard work that we're going to have to roll up our sleeves to do with MDOT as an organization in-house.